Hey everybody, it's Jason McClaren with Leadership Loading Podcast. And today we're talking to Curtis McCoy, or M. Curtis McCoy as he goes by. He's an American entrepreneur, personal development author, and speaker. And he's also the best-selling self-help author and host of Success Motivation. We'll talk a little bit about that also. And today we're just talking about leadership and being the leader you were meant to be. So Curtis, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jason, man. I'm glad to be a guest. It's an honor.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got to where you're at today.
So I've ran quite a few different companies. Like most entrepreneurs, started out with the lawn mowing kind of thing as a 13-year-old kid or whatever, but went on and got to college and studied aviation electronics or avionics, and was actually the number one, the top graduate of my class, the only guy in the previous 5 years that had aced the final exam, and went through and did that. Got a job offer from Lockheed Martin on the way home from the Lockheed offer. This is during all the airline layoffs, and so I got a job offer for $15 an hour as the top graduate of the graduated class, and so I'm driving home thinking, I just wasted a couple of years of schooling here for, avionics is kind of where, Lockheed was there where everybody wanted to work. I'm driving home. And on the way back, there's a sign, drove by a McDonald's, and it's got a sign that says, now hiring assistant manager starting at $15.01 an hour plus, vacation, whatever. They had us all this. And just going, I'm not going to be flipping fries either, but if I could make more flipping French fries than I could as, working at Lockheed, that's probably not the career that I wanted to do. And so I got into, started doing some personal training just to pay the bills. And as I was doing that, also selling furniture and just whatever, like a lot of us do, trying to get something going, and ended up starting a nutritional supplement company that ended up supplying major retailers. We're supplying protein powders and stuff to Bally's 24-Hour Fitness and some of these larger companies, and have started quite a few different companies. But from the fitness side, ended up launching a cosmetic medical laser clinic and a pharmaceutical company that manufactured bioidentical injectable research peptides. That was, again, my main point for that is not to tell you to start a pharmaceutical company or whatever, but just saying I was not a doctor. I've never been a pharmacist, but just doing the research, literally going to the library back before YouTube and Google was a real big resource, and going through and reading on, okay, what is a peptide? How do these things work? And ended up having doctors and pharmacists and stuff working for me, but creating a very successful business. Then ended up with brain cancer. Lost absolutely everything. We were sponsoring events at the Denver Coliseum. So had the working with the Denver Broncos cheerleaders, the Denver Nuggets dancers, IFBB pro bodybuilders, kind of on top of the world there. And then lost absolutely everything. Couldn't drive alone. Couldn't live alone. I was having seizures, 7 to 10 grand mal seizures a week, and lost everything. Ended up moving in with my mom and stepdad, sleeping on their floor because I couldn't, there was a good chance I was going to die in the middle of the night there. And so during all that, ended up launching a telecommunications company, which we ran for over 10 years, had over 250,000 customers a month. You guys probably heard of bestcellular.com, but it was we owned the trademark on the term best cellular. Like Verizon couldn't say that they had the best cellular service because we owned the trademark, and we used Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. But that's kind of a long background there. But
Yeah,
my main point in sharing that in all that is you can do anything you want to do. This guy with no, I had an airplane background, training in avionics, and ended up with a company in pharmaceuticals, research peptides, a Christian clothing company, a pharmaceutical company, all these different businesses that I had never done before. I just wanted to being willing to get out there and do the research and surround myself with smarter people than I was.
Right. And so that's kind of goes to my first question about developing success. And, how did you move on from, going downhill and get that motivation and inspiration to move forward and build your success after that?
One of the big things, so my latest book, How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader, I actually wrote after I was diagnosed with brain cancer, given 60 to 90 days to live. You'll still hear when I'm speaking, there's a lot of, I stumble a lot of my words and stuff. I've spoke at Caesar's Palace and some big venues, but still have a very hard time with communication because of the brain tumor. But yeah, went through that and just continued to keep, even though doctors said I had 60 to 90 days to live, my mom was telling me, hey, why don't you start some kind of a business, another supplement company, something helping people with weight loss. What do you want to do? So I was repairing iPhone screens back when it was, like the iPhone 4 kind of thing, but repairing those on the kitchen table at my parents' house. And I think she had me doing that just because it was, to keep me less depressed about losing absolutely everything. But took off. We just started marketing the heck out of it, and pretty soon repairing every phone in the surrounding area there, and started my own little retail store as soon as I stopped having all the seizures, and lived in the back of that store for a couple of years as we built that into a multi-store location and ended up being, a nationwide telecommunications company.
Yeah, I think that kind of reflects on the startup mindset and hustling, kind of, starting at your kitchen table and moving into a storefront and then using that as almost a residence / storefront and kind of going from there. So that's using that same motivation and mindset to excel like you did. And I think that's a great mindset there.
Yep.
So we were talking about communication, and I think a lot of leaders, when we're thinking about how to be a leader and mindset and communication, it's kind of a joint venture between nonverbal and verbal communication. I know you were talking about some of the issues you have with your communication style. So how can we, use our nonverbal communication to make sure that we're sending the right messages when we're trying to get our leadership goals out there?
I actually spoke about this yesterday. That's a great question. I was invited to speak over in Grand Junction. And one of the big things with the nonverbal communication is, as a speaker, or even if you're taking pictures, you see a lot of times people stare, when you're nervous, you stand and you face the audience square on, both shoulders equal. You get your hands down to your sides, and most people will start raising their shoulders a little bit, kind of the shrug. And so as you're watching this type of a speaker that's stand their shoulders shrugged, head down a little bit, hands stiff at their sides or fidgeting their thumbs, it doesn't matter how great the message is. If the person looks like they're terrified or looks like they're not interested in what they're speaking about, you're not going to convince anybody to do anything because they're going, whatever this guy's selling, I don't want it. But so one of the big things with that, as far as looking like you've got confidence, looking like you know what you're doing, is, stepping back a little bit, taking some space. When you control the space, you control the narrative. So that could be, turning your shoulders a little bit where you're at a slight angle from the audience, looking away, making eye contact with different people and making sure that you're not just square on there. And then also your tone of voice, the speed that you speak with, the amount of, the pauses between. Another thing when we're nervous is we typically speak too fast. We speak too high. We'll do that. We'll do the uptakes at the end of, the uptones at the end of a statement. So rather than saying, hey, today I'm going to be speaking on confidence, you go, hey, today I'm going to be speaking on confidence. He's going, this guy has no clue what he's talking about. So that's a kind of thing, is just making sure that you're slowing down, being confident. When you look confident, you become confident. That's probably the biggest tip there.
Definitely, and it goes back to if you watch TED Talks or TEDx Talks or anything like that, those people have had to rehearse and apply for those positions, so they exude that confidence. And if you kind of mirror that in your mindset, you can move forward and excel that way. So you have a show on Amazon Fire TV. How'd that work out? I'm kind of curious to see how that happened.
That's a great question. So I started out in 2018 where, I'd been fighting I lost the ability to communicate for a while. I could not speak, couldn't write. Anytime I would try to, it was the wrong words coming out. So when I was diagnosed with brain cancer, I was having all these seizures, and woke up one morning, half my body didn't work. And so I'm trying to write to the paramedics telling them, hey, listen, I'm diabetic. I just had a seizure. But what came out was chicken, pituitary, phone charger, just this random list of words. So they took me in thinking that I'd had a TIA stroke. So this went on. I regained the ability to communicate pretty quickly, but it was very broken, very just basically sounded like I had no confidence because I could not get the words out that I wanted to speak about. So I started actually a podcast trying to figure out how to just communicate and connect with people and connect with leaders that I admired. So I reached out to hundreds and hundreds of different people and interviewed folks like Bob Berg, the author, and some of these big leaders where I was going, hey, this is kind of a cool way to get connected. And as I was doing these interviews, pretty soon that ended up, I got an offer to get that syndicated if I could provide the RSS feed where they're pulling it from YouTube or whatever. I had a developer on staff that built out the tools for that. But since then, we've got to interview some pretty incredible leaders, and some of them have been included in the book, like the inventor of the MP3 player, Navy SEAL team sniper, church leaders, ex-convicts. I mean, all kinds of different folks. But that started because I had no goal of ever being on a TV show or hosting a TV show interviewing these successful folks. It was just a way I was just forcing myself to figure out how to communicate again, whether that was being at the grocery store and trying to ask somebody how their day was doing or whatever. So never really know where we're going. You can have a plan, but stuff usually takes a little bit of a different turn. And the TV show is a kind of unexpected benefit to that starting a podcast.
Definitely. And that's kind of why we started this podcast here at Go Heroes, kind of to network and meet people like yourself and go out and connect with them and share their stories moving on.
Love that.
And like you said, it helps you become a better conversationalist and learn how to communicate with people, outside the formal context of a meeting or an interview or something like that. You're able to kind of meet these people and adjust your speaking style and communication style or whatever they're doing.
Absolutely. And one of the beautiful things about having a podcast there is it gives you the platform to have access to people that you would never be able to connect with. I mean, multi-millionaire, billionaire guests that are, they've got thousands of people daily reaching out on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, asking them for, hey, Elon Musk, could I have $1 million? These kind of things where just wasting their time. But when you've got a platform where you can help somebody spread their message, even if they've already got a good following, and you're going, hey, I would love to have somebody on the, Curtis, I'd love to have you on the Leadership Loading podcast. I'm going, hey, this sounds great. So even if I'm busy, I'll make time for that because you've built the platform and got that audience that is already interested in your topics.
Yeah, and I told you this earlier. Thank you for coming on today and sharing your story with us. I saw that you're also integrated with Toastmasters.
Yeah, I've been doing Toastmasters for quite a few years. Again, trying to get the speaking thing working better. So
yeah, I did that for a few years and I got out of it. I need to get back into it. But for those of you that don't know about Toastmasters, it's a speaking club and you can go and learn to speak and they give you topics to speak on. And sometimes you get to pick your own topic depending on what it is. But it's a useful tool for those that are kind of nervous talking in front of people. It's the way to do it in a fun way, and you can earn some training and stuff through that. So,
yeah, it's been very beneficial for me.
Definitely. All right, Curtis, how can we get a hold of you if we want to find you?
So you pretty much easiest way would just be to Google me. Anything you search that's got Curtis McCoy, you'll find them on the Google Knowledge Panel. Every social network, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the different platforms, LinkedIn. It's all under M. Curtis McCoy. So I've been pretty active on Instagram recently, just posting daily reels and stuff like that with inspirational, motivational stuff. So it'd be Instagram.com/M. Curtis McCoy or Facebook.com/M. Curtis McCoy. And if you want to get a copy of my book, it's how2besuccessful.com, or you can search that on Amazon. It's also available in Barnes & Noble, Walmart, all the major book retailers. And it's also available in U.S. libraries nationwide as well. So how to be successful, think like a leader.
Definitely. I'm going to put the links in the show notes below. And also I'll link to your website and all his social media icons are at the bottom of the website for those that want to check him out. And last, Curtis, what's your leadership tip or leadership mindset for those that are just excelling in their leadership career and moving to that next step?
One of the big things that I think we often overlook as leaders, I get people, I do coaching with other guys that are also coaching and leaders and business owners. And a lot of times talking to folks that are very successful already, but when you talk to them behind closed doors, they don't really feel like they deserve to be in that position, or almost feel like a fake because they're going, why does anybody really want to listen to me? Yeah, I've got 40 employees, but what do I know that I can help them with, whatever. But I would say probably just understanding that you've got knowledge, you've got life experiences that put you in that position. And so if you're trying to become a coach, if you're a leader, if you are an existing leader that's running companies with hundreds of employees, there's a reason that you're there. Don't doubt yourself, or don't feel like you're not, like you don't have the authority to be able to teach or speak. You do. And if if there's something that you don't know, just like I did with the pharmaceutical company, the medical franchise, the clothing companies, the telecommunications company, all of this, I didn't have to be an expert in any of those. I just had to be able to make the connections and surround myself with people who did. So just keep going and make sure you're always taking in great information. Make sure you're subscribed to the Leadership Loading podcast. Sounds like you might be on mute there.
Thanks for that plug there, Curtis. I was having a little technical difficulty there. But...
No worries.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on the show, and we'll connect with you later.
Absolutely, brother. It was good talking to you, Jason. Thanks.
There are thousands of leadership and management podcasts to choose from. We're glad you chose the Leadership Loading podcast, a Go Heroes production. If you'd like to support Go Heroes Inc., visit www.goheroes.org. And with that, it's time to wrap up today's show. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your family and friends. Let's all grow together. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Loading Podcast. Leadership Inspired.